The way home for Wilf. Today we are learning to identify and use verbs with the ed suffix. In your English book, write today's date and underline it. Write the WALT underneath. Stop the presentation if you need time to do this. Remember, we are learning to. The WALT, we are learning to. We will be using this book for the next 2 weeks. The Way Home for Wolf by Rachel Bright and Jim Field. Our main character is that little wolf on the front cover. His name is Wilf. The story takes place in the Arctic. That is the area, the world we will be learning a lot about in our Explore geography lessons. Far up in the north. As a rainbow of light flickered soft in the night, dusting diamonds of ice in a desert of white, the wild whipping wind, it whistled its tune to a howling of wolves and a shimmering moon. And the loudest "ow" in this echoing song was a wolfling called Wilf at the heart of the throng. He loved to be fierce and longed to be grown. He liked to try everything all on his own. "Look at me, I am big, I am tough," he would growl, whilst he showed off his strength and practiced his prowl. So we are learning to identify and use verbs with the ed suffix. Let's start with identifying. As a rainbow of lights flickered soft in the night, dusting diamonds of ice in a desert of white, the wild whipping wind, it whistled its tune to a howling of wolves and a shimmering moon. Which verbs have you spotted that have the ed suffix? There is flickered and whistled. You can see both words end with ed. We are learning to identify and use verbs with the ed suffix. Remember, the ed suffix means those 2 letters that go at the end of a word. It makes the word, the verb, in the past tense. It has already happened. Let's see if we can spot some more. He loved to be fierce and longed to be grown. He liked to try everything all on his own, whilst he showed off his strength and practiced his prowl. Which verbs have you spotted with the ed suffix on this page? There's loved, longed, liked, showed, practiced. Let's see if you can have a go at using the verbs with ed suffix now. Write your own sentences with some new verbs that have the ed suffix to describe the stars, the wind, the wolves, the moon, Wilf. Go back to the start of the presentation if you want to look at the pictures in the story again to help you come up with some ideas. Ideas time. What could the stars have been doing? The ideas I came up with. Remember, all of these are verbs in the past tense that end in ed, the ed suffix. Sparkled, twinkled, glinted. Can you put one of these ideas into a sentence and write it into your book? Pause the video so you have time to do this. This is what your book might look like now. Remember, take care with your handwriting and your presentation. These things are very important. Now let's try some ideas about the wind. What could the wind have been doing? I came up with whooshed, whipped, rushed, pushed, raced. Can you put one of these ideas or one of your own into a sentence and write it into your book? Remember, must be a verb in the past tense that ends in ed. And in this sentence, you are describing the wind. What could the wind have been doing? My sentence was, the wind rushed through the dark forest. Again, check your handwriting and your presentation. Let's try some ideas about Wilf. What could Wilf have been doing? Howled, played, pounced, leaped, showed off. Put one of these ideas or one of your own into a sentence and write it into your book. Remember, pause the video so you have time. If you are ready for the challenge, here are some extra idea sentences. You could do some sentences about the wolves or the moon. Come up with your own ideas for what the wolves could have been doing or the moon was doing. Remember, the verbs are in the past tense and they end with the ed suffix. Self-assessment. How do you feel about today's learning on using verbs with the ed suffix? How neat was your handwriting and presentation today? Talk to an adult about these things. You could also write a message at the bottom of your work explaining how you feel about today's learning. What do you think you have done well and what you could still get better at? Compare your work to mine.